Welcome, everyone. All right, I call the town meeting of the Town of Lake Mills Board to order on February 10th, 2015 at 8 p.m. here at the Town Hall. Notice was published in the Lake Mills Leader February 4th and posted at the Town Hall, the North End Boat Launch, and the cul-de-sac on Finch Brothers Road, and also on our website. Before we start, I want to say we had a written report last month in the Lake Mills Leader that was garnered from our video, and it was a little misleading, and I'd like to correct two things if anyone read that. We had a long discussion about the Cambridge fire and EMS, and it began to look in the article a little bit like it was the Lake Mills Fire Department, and so I wanted to clarify that. And then also later in our meeting tonight, we're going to talk about London Road again, and the facts were misreported in that article too. It said that we were laying down an 8 to 10 foot layer of gravel and feet of asphalt, and really we were talking about inches. So there was a big discrepancy in the article, and I wanted to clarify that, mostly for our TV viewing audience. Hopefully, this month's meeting will be a little better recorded, I'm hoping. So we'll move on in the agenda. Item 2 is the adoption of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt February's agenda as printed.
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Is there any discussion on the agenda?
I have actually,
You have some changes,
well,
Sarah?
no, I thought is race day events here? Okay. But Ragnar's not, so maybe we could put race day ahead of Ragnar so that
Okay.
we can get out of here. So switch A and B around.
All right. Is there any other discussion on that? Should be just a housekeeping item. All in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed, the same sign. The agenda is approved. Item number 3 is the approval of the minutes. Sarah, you're getting so much better at this.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of January 13th as printed.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion on the minutes?
Pretty thorough.
You do a nice job, and it's very succinct, and it wasn't that you were bad before. It's just that you're learning. Appreciate it. Well, it's really a lot better. Thank you. So all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Minutes are carried. Approval of the treasurer's report.
I'll make a motion to approve February's treasurer's report.
Second.
Is there any discussion or any questions for our treasurer?
Lots of activity.
Lots to keep track of. Sharon, thank you
Yeah.
for the
Dave,
nice
no
job you do.
questions?
I don't.
It's really good.
Wait till we get to disbursements. Look out.
I'm actually
Yep.
All in favor of approving February's treasurer's report, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and all opposed?
See, you have to watch what's going out close.
The treasurer's report is approved. Item number 5, approval of the general funding vouching.
I'll make a motion to approve February's disbursements of $160,390.14.
Second.
Are there any questions or discussion on that?
You want to mention?
I have 4 delinquent personal properties.
Okay,
I have sent letters to them. They are D&L Investment, which is the truck stop, Finish Line Custom Construction, Grave Tech Pavers, and Crowville Oasis. Oh, and I have to settle with the county tomorrow, so that's when I'll find out the numbers for these February tax settlements. And they have to be in their hands by February 20th, so I will be transferring enough funds.
I called this
cover that.
afternoon and they didn't have them available yet, so we'll just
Okay.
have to fill it in. But it's not like we have any control over what those numbers are. so-
right, okay. You guys have any questions?
You had the truck stop, Fast Line, Grade Tech. There was one more, wasn't there?
Crowville.
Oasis.
Crowville.
Okay.
Sharon, you work really hard at this time of the year. Not that you don't all times of the year, but I appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you very much. The motion to approve the general funding vouching is approved. Item number 6, the reports. Matt?
Yeah. I'd just like to start out with the introduction of our second new officer for the boat patrol, Tabitha Felder. He was one that was hired with Andrew Schmidt, who was in the news last month. And she's going to get sworn in today in front of the town board. And she'd give you a little introduction to herself and tell you where she's from and what school she's going to and academy and what she graduated from for her college degree.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Hi, Tabitha.
Hello. I guess I'll start with where I grew up, around Lake Mills. I went to Lakeside Lutheran High School. I went to Globe University and graduated with my associate's degree in criminal justice. I am currently at Madison College for Police Academy, and I am expected to graduate on May 22nd of this year. So that's going very well. Anything else about myself? I don't know. I'm very outdoorsy. I work at the Lake Mills Fish Hatchery. I have since '07, and I really like it. So I like to stay in the small community. So I think it'll fit great for me.
Okay. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you ready to make it official?
Yeah, I guess.
Come on.
Oh.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Tabitha Felder,
I, Tabitha Felder,
having been hired to the office of Town Police Officer,
having been hired to the office of Town Police Officer,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially
and will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of said office
will discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank
Welcome
you.
aboard. Whoops.
Nervous.
Sign here, yeah. Especially when we're on TV.
Hope, did we actually
No,
vote on this? We didn't. Okay.
I was gonna bring it
Okay,
to
yeah.
Oh, we didn't vote on it?
No.
All right.
Sorry.
Now they're
Sorry.
now they're calling me out.
Our bad.
Not your problem.
Now they're calling me out.
Thank you.
Well, welcome aboard, Tabitha. I think what's going to happen, Matt, I think that the Joint
Oh,
Rock Lake
Tabitha.
Committee,
Sorry.
all right, Joint Rock Lake Committee has suspended their meeting in March, but they have come forward with a request that at their April meeting, that they meet with all the new lake officers and kind of get to know them. They had some questions that they sent out on the internet, which I think we can pretty easily answer. And that's something we need to put on our calendar. But I don't know what it is.
The questions
April.
are-
April 7th.
No, it's actually April
Somebody
7th.
sent me an email
Yeah,
asking
okay.
yeah,
Just
so
so
I
you
sent
got
it
that
to Matt
date.
and everybody got that, yeah.
They meet at 6 p.m. at the city municipal building.
Okay, upstairs.
And so, yes,
7th, voting day?
we also have a new,
But that doesn't affect
But that doesn't
Rock
affect
Yeah.
Rock Lake.
we also have a new warden, Pearl, who's covering this area of our, what is her last name?
Wallace.
Pearl Wallace. I saw her on Saturday out on the lake, and I asked her if she might attend so that we all kind of
Okay.
get to know each other.
Perfect.
So just put that on your calendar, look forward to that. I know you've got some training stuff to do and lots of schoolwork to finish up, but soon the sun will shine and we'll be out on the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, just reference that meeting. Also, Sergeant Ryan Wallace will be there. He's going to be the sergeant in charge of the boat patrol. And also Andrew Schmidt's going to be there also. I'll be there, of course. I just don't know if the board would also, if Scott Rowan was there at that meeting also.
No problem.
Okay, I'd like to have Scott show up also, because there's some questions on here that I think he'd be able to address better than I would be at this point. So,
And I usually attend that meeting. If you guys, any of you guys would like to attend, it is a posted meeting, so it wouldn't be any conflict if we made that note. I think that'll be a good way to kick off the spring season. Matt, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go
well,
ahead.
that's okay. And then I'm just going to move on. I'm just going to go on to the road patrol for the month of January. We put 548 miles on the squad. We had a total of 49 and a quarter hours of patrol. Ran 12 and a half hours of radar, handled 3 complaints. Spent 2.5 hours in court, investigated an accident, issued 11 citations and 8 warnings, assisted 1 motorist, and did 1 follow-up investigation on that during the month of January. We also received from the State of Wisconsin Municipal Court our caseload statistics for 2014. These are not boat-related. These are not boat citations. We issued 581 citations in total. Out of that, they dismissed a total of 18 of those citations. So that was just a record that we received from the municipal court clerk on there. The other thing I want to do is, I had some indication that you guys were looking for some enforcement on junk vehicles or abandoned vehicles in the town. We currently don't have an ordinance that would apply to that on our, in our ordinances. I put together a sample policy if the town wants to consider looking at an ordinance. That would have to be in place if I was going to be able to enforce anything with the township police related to ordinances through the township.
Because we follow Jefferson County ordinances on many things, does that cover in any way, shape, or form or not?
Well, I'd have to go through, I can certainly look at Jefferson County zoning ordinances. The issue with that is I would not be able to issue any type of ordinance citation related to that because it'd have to come from the sheriff's department because it doesn't go through our jurisdiction. Or I'd have to look at state
I wonder if
state
it
laws.
isn't covered under our nuisance ordinance,
I read that. I didn't see.
not specifically related
If
to
you
vehicles.
don't cut your grass, you leave open garbage or something like that, it covers everything
But
fine.
nothing with vehicles.
Nothing with vehicles or vehicle parts.
Okay.
When I say vehicles, you can see the definitions that I have in here, what I would consider vehicles would cover most things. So I'd be real limited on being able to do a lot of, take any action, like, we have some vehicles that look like they were involved in accidents and in front yards and stuff. I would have to look some other route, either by state statute, and there is going to be limitations on that too,
Right.
as to what we
Okay,
could do.
all
And you
right,
said
well,
you
that's
have
good.
some,
I do, I made a copy for everybody.
Great, man.
Not just a sample, of course, it could be different ones, whatever you want added into that.
Helpful, that's something we can look at in our next month's agenda.
Because I believe the county has 2 unlicensed vehicles.
Yeah, I think we've been through this before, but we can do a little work on that
Yeah.
and
I mean, if
get that
that's-
updated.
If that's the case, we ought to really take a
We
look at
had
it.
several complaints, Matt and I have talked about, it's not like we just came up with this. We'd had several complaints on vehicles that were parked.
Yeah. Other than that, that's all I currently have.
All right, thanks, Matt, for all your hard work. Now we're gonna go back.
okay, good.
We're gonna go back because they've brought me up to task here. We did not actually approve the general funding vouching for this month. So is there a
A
motion?
motion
There
was
a
made
motion.
and the second was made, you just, when you take
And
a
then I
vote.
started blathering away, so I apologize. All in favor of approving the general funding vouching for February 2015, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed, same sign. You see how it is to work with these guys. Thank you, it's a team effort. All right, on to the Joint Rock Lake Committee. I guess we kind of know where they're at. They're not meeting in March, but their concerns will be brought up at their April 7th meeting.
Did you receive the dam information from Patricia?
Yes, I did. I don't know, just as she asked me, we are beginning to look at the dam configuration that the city is putting forward. There were some maps available this weekend at the Knickerbocker Festival. If you attended that, I'm not sure if they're displayed anywhere in the city, but it is very interesting to look at what might be going on with the dam. I don't know if we will have any official correspondence, but I think our constituents should know that that is being contemplated, and it will be probably starting to be approved and come forward in this calendar year.
Pretty sure they did have it displayed in the municipal building upstairs.
So if anyone wants to look at it, they should stay tuned, because I think there's going to be some developments there. Jim, C, the Planning Commission report.
Planning Commission did not meet. There was nothing to review, no business, so we did not meet.
All right, are there any other committee reports?
Nope.
All right, yes, Sarah?
I was curious about when we need to start looking at hiring for Clean Boats, Clean Waters.
I suppose that's on our agenda very soon, huh?
I think so.
I will speak with Patricia and see where we're at. We did receive that Clean Boat, Clean Waters grant, and we will be hiring a few people to help us cover that this summer, as we did last year. All right, item number 7, period of public comment and questions. Is there anyone in the audience who is not on the agenda who would like to make a public comment to the board at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on. Switch this around. Item 8 is a review of applications that are filed. We'll take item B first, the discussion and decision on a request to hold a special event by Race Day Events LLC for the Lake Mills Triathlon on June 7th, 2015. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for seeing me this evening. My name is Ryan Hastings. I'm an employee of Race Day Events, and I am also the race director of the triathlon. I am here tonight to seek your approval for that special events permit. It would be on June 7th. The event starts, I believe, at 7 o'clock a.m., and we're typically out of the parking lot by noon. I thought last year everything went fairly smoothly. We had some road construction, so we had to reroute the bike course. No major hiccups, pardon me, no major incidences took place.
How many years have you done this?
We have owned it, I believe this is our, I want to say 5th or 6th year. In totality, to be honest, I don't know,
I think it's been a long time.
because I think it's been
Yeah, it's
around
been
a
a
very
I
long
want to say it's
time.
Yeah.
like almost 10, 12 years, right?
It's gonna be my guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Are there any other questions for Ryan?
I'll make a motion that we approve the special events permit for Race Day Events LLC for the Lake Mills Triathlon on June 7th, 2015.
I'll second it.
Is there any more discussion? One item I think that we have that's good news is I think this is the weekend that we don't have any other events, right? We used to have another event that weekend, and I think that's been
Please change that date.
changed, so I think that's really great. That will be just that one banner event in our community.
That's great. I was in contact with the highway, Jefferson County Highway Department. He did say that A would be under construction. They don't know what the schedule is as of yet. So I don't know if that's going to impact us or not. He really did not have any sort of clue on what the scheduling for that was, so I will be following up with him to see what their schedule is.
When you
for
say
that.
him, are you saying
Yeah.
Brian?
Yep,
Brian Yubovich?
yes. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah.
Yes, Brian. He was the one I've been in contact with, so I will keep contacting him until I hear what their
Yeah,
schedule is.
and we'll work with him too, so we'll certainly know what's going on, and we
Yeah,
have
I figured
lots
you
of
would. I
events
just thought
in
I'd mention
June.
it just so that you kind of
Great, that's good, because I didn't know that was
see that
happening.
we're trying to, follow up on our
Sure.
end with the, with that aspect also.
Do you have an alternate route in mind if it?
I do not at this point, because I asked him if he knew what the limits of it would be to kind of give me an idea of what I had to work with. And he was extremely vague, so we have looked at it. I don't have any proposals at this time, because I really don't know what the limits are.
Well,
More
we
than-
pretty much know what areas would be under construction.
Right.
I mean, because there's a whole new part from County Highway S on
Is there?
towards Cambridge. So it would be the part that would be from S
Well,
or Crossman Road towards town.
Right.
Toward the intersection here.
Yeah, that's,
So I guess maybe you should start thinking about that.
we've pulled out a map and we've kind of started kicking around some ideas. I apologize, I don't have anything to present
Oh,
as
it's
a-
all right, and it sounds like they're a
as an
little
alternate
loose too.
Because I didn't know
Yeah.
exactly what would be, what the limits of it were, so what could
Well,
be used in.
Let's work together.
That
This is
that sounds great. We're extremely flexible, and I have no doubt that we can absolutely come up with a
it's
great
a
solution.
Saturday morning, so more than likely.
Sunday, isn't it?
Sunday.
they're not working, so as long as it's smooth and passable, it still might work for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm gonna follow up with him consistently until I
Yeah.
can
All right.
get a feel for where
Well,
it's
and I'll
gonna be
put that
at.
on my little note here, because later in our meeting, we're gonna talk about getting together with Brian, so.
Oh, that's great.
So, we'll kind of put that on our radar too.
That's excellent. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you for coming down, Ryan,
Great,
appreciate
thank
it.
you for seeing me. Is it okay if I take off, or do you like?
You
to-
bet.
As soon as we pass a motion.
Sounds good.
And have you contacted emergency services, EMS, that type of
Not
thing?
at this point yet. I wanted to get this approval, and then that's next on
I
the
did
list.
send it out to, that's part of my process. When I get the application, it goes out to all those people so that they're aware that it's being looked at by us, yeah.
Perfect.
I still make contact with them myself, just to ensure that they have
Right, sure.
pertinent details and.
So the other thing that I would like is, if we find that there is going to be significant road construction and you are not going to be able to follow the route as listed, I think it would be great if you could circle back to one of our meetings or make sure that we are completely aware so that we can make people in the town aware of what the actual course is going to be.
Yes.
That sounds like a great idea. Absolutely.
Okay? So I would really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
You can do that through me.
Okay.
You've been emailing me anyway.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. I have absolutely no problem with that. We find the more information we can put out that the residents appreciate that, and it kind of makes our, makes,
Makes everything a lot easier.
yes, it does.
That's
The
good.
coexistence a whole lot
Great.
easier.
All right, all in favor of approving the special events application for the Lake Mills Triathlon on June 7th, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and all opposed? Hearing none, you're approved.
Great. Thank you very much
Great.
for your time. I
We'll
appreciate
look
it.
forward to
bet.
working with you. We enjoy having the event here.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right,
Yes, Ragnar, we talked about not making them fly in from Utah tonight. She is available by phone right now. If you have any questions, she's aware. She's got her
Okay.
phone on her, so.
Yep.
all right, so the next item is the discussion and decision on a request to hold a special event by Ragnar Events for the Ragnar Relay Chicago on June 12th, 2015. So you understand, part of our ordinance is that we'd like to have these people who are applying for special events be here to present their case. But because this is a Utah-based group, we asked if they would just be available by phone. So this event has been here many, many years. We've seen many different race directors, but I guess I don't have a problem with it. We don't have a conflict.
Right.
They're usually pretty tight. This is the event that brings a
Flood. of
team
people.
relay to town. It also brings many vans, probably in the excess of over 500 vans of people. They run through town, I think it's approximately like 3 o'clock, and they're usually out of here. I think they have a rest station now at.
Well, now it looks like, I think they went back to the,
Lake
Go
Mills
back
High
to the high
School
school.
is one of the exchanges.
yeah. Last year they were out here because the high school was having paving done, but I think they went back to the high school.
They make
maybe it's not-
they make reference to the Lutheran school.
Lakeside,
stay
yeah.
there.
Oh, Lakeside, okay.
All right.
So I guess, in the absence of someone being here, I would make a motion that we approve the special event request for the Ragnar events for the Ragnar Relay Chicago on June 12th.
I'll second it.
Is there any more discussion?
No discussion, it's just that it's perfectly legal to attend a meeting by phone. So there's nothing wrong with what
Okay,
she's
good.
doing.
Just wanted to explain that to the rest of the buying world. All right?
As a matter of fact, we can even do that. We can attend the meeting by phone.
I should maybe have called in then.
I think you need a doctor's excuse for that.
Skype.
Yeah,
We could have had.
FaceTime.
We could have
I like the
had your
doctor's
lovely
excuse
face
thing.
here on Skype.
I'm going to do that for border review, okay? All right, all in favor of approving the Ragnar event, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and all opposed, same sign. Well, the things we didn't learn tonight. Okay, added to our agenda, discussion and decision on operator's license applications.
I have a question quick on, last month we had one that was obviously a problem. My question is, Is that something that that I can just automatically send a denial notice for, or do you still want to see it and go through the process that we did last month?
It's my understanding that the board has to make the
Yeah.
decision on that.
Right.
You do the finding of facts,
Right.
and then we, as the board, have to make the judgment on that, but that's
Okay.
my understanding.
Yep, that's.
But then, is your question, how do you inform that person?
No, I've already done that.
All right.
My question was, since it was an obvious one, if that was something that I was wasting your time with, but it sounds
No,
like.
no, I
After
think
the
it's
board has
important.
made the decision, then,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, we have before us 3 operators licenses. These are all at the Krogville Oasis. And it makes me scratch my head and wonder if these people have been working without a license.
Yes.
I guess,
I know one of them had a license last year, so probably.
I guess we've had enough discussion with him
Did
being
not
a...
receive any certificates of class completion with any of these. Normally, I would receive those, and I did not. So if we're going, we may want to request that as before officially granting.
Yeah, I think so. It says here that they have all gone through the
Yeah, I know,
course.
but they usually send a copy of the application too. or
One does
certificate.
not say which course.
It just says yes.
Yep.
Yeah. The other 2 were online.
Yep. And Chris Waitman, he did not apply last year, but he's already been approved once before.
Yes, and so has Leanna Spencer. Well, what is your pleasure, you guys?
I got a question on this, or can I?
Do you have something to
Yeah.
say,
Is
man?
that all right?
Sure.
I guess on this one here, and Chris is here, they circled no on this, on have you been convicted of any felonies or violating any laws of the state of Wisconsin, United States. Going through his record here, he has a couple of recent OWIs and does have a misdemeanor conviction for movable theft. That wasn't noted on here. I don't know if it was on the original maybe, and you thought they didn't have to put it on this one here, since this is what a renewal is, what you're indicating to me? Or was it wrong? And I'm not sure what your regulations are on denying or not denying, but I just want to bring that to your attention, because you did indicate that on here.
The OWI's felonies?
No, they are not, none of them are,
None of them are felonies.
Regular
none are.
violating state law.
Right. Well, anytime there's,
Omissions or, right?
anytime that there is a not true statement on the application, it's automatic, a chance for us to deny it.
Right, and then on
But it does
the,
say state law.
right, and it is state statute, and I do have the copies here, but, and the other one would be the Spencer on here, and it's a minor thing, it was an underage drinking when she was an adult, but it's just not noted on here. And I'm not sure if that, because it is gonna be an ordinance or a traffic type of deal, although it is state law. My more concern was with Christopher's. And those were convictions.
And what is the, what is the impact of, I believe that Crowville is delinquent in taxes, as I thought I
Yep, personal
heard.
property tax, yep.
And I don't know if that has an impact on what we can or can't do.
Well,
Well, that really doesn't have any impact on the
No,
operator's license. That
no.
has more on their liquor license,
No.
I think, until they have it cleaned up.
I think that at this point, I think that we should demand the certificate of completion for the course, because I think that's clearly stated on the application, that you have to have the valid certification. All along, in the last few years, we've had troubles with enforcement at Krogville. I would just as soon put these in a pile and wait for them to produce those certificates.
And also for, the applications that are not filled out correctly, we need correct applications.
New applications. And I think that's prudent at this point. I don't know if you guys will disagree with me on that, but I would motion to table these applications for operators' licenses until March, so that they have time to provide us with the certificates of completion and with complete and honest operators' application. Now, how will we communicate this to them?
Write a letter.
Okay, would you do that? I could help you with that, but I think that's the best method here.
Are you gonna personally write these guys a letter, or are you just gonna write a letter to Cookville Aces and have them inform their employees?
You see, on the applications, we have no addresses, well, I guess we do
Yeah,
have
but
addresses for
Normally,
them.
the communication goes through
Well-
the liquor license owner.
Let's do all four. Let's do each operator,
Sure,
those three people, and
That's
then
the right-
let's
that's the way to
notify
be.
yeah,
Crowville
that way nobody can say, oh, I was
that you
never
didn't do
told.
that or we didn't have it covered.
Sounds good.
You know, it's just my fear that they've been working without these licenses, and I guess we've talked to Jeff about that, and I hope that we can resolve this without any more paperwork jungles. What's one more month? I want them to understand that their license is their license to do business in the town of Lake Mills. Okay, so the motion is on the floor to table this.
There was a second.
Can't remember, do we vote on that? No. Can't remember.
We technically have to vote it to bring it back
Ian?
in.
All right,
I think as long as it's, isn't it, as long as it's seconded?
right, I think that's the way it
Yep.
works. I'll have to get my Robert's
Robert's
Rules for
Rules.
Dummies out. All right, on to item number 9, old business. Item A is the discussion and decision of amendments to Town Ordinance 2-5, the regulation of direct sellers, and a review of the related application. So Jim, thank you very much for helping us put this all together.
Point of order. I do actually have a chart of motions from Robert's Rules and a table. A second is required. It's non-debatable, non-amendable, but a majority vote is required.
All right.
Okay, so we actually should back up.
Make us a copy of that. Back
Well, I
to,
don't know.
then, item
Get
C.
too smart.
All in favor of tabling the operator's licenses until March, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, the same sign. Thanks, Jim. All right, now, on to old business. Item A, discussion and decision on those amendments to ordinance 2-5.
Okay, so I had entered in language previously pointing to a state statute, Melinda's Law, and at the point where we were reviewing this, Officer Miller advised that we needed better clarity on both a definition and also some other parts of this. So this is just a subtle additions to include more verbiage that is directly from the Department of Workforce Development. Their language defining a traveling sales crew, and then also the addition of requirement on our form that basically is a checkbox, have they provided or proof of registration with DWD, as well as stating that they are to comply with all portions of that state statute. So kind of cleaning up and refining.
Anybody else got anything to add? Matt, you feel good
I
about
reviewed
this?
the ordinance, it's very well written, and everything that was requested, we put in there is in there, and it looks very enforceable. I like it.
All right. Where do we go from here, Sarah?
We post, or publish the amendments and go to public hearing in March.
Okay. So there is really no action that we need to
Well,
take?
Yeah, we have to-
yes,
We have to approve
the
it?
amendments, Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendments to Town Ordinance 2-5 and the publication of those amendments.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all
Aye.
opposed, the same sign. Okay, on to the redo of that ordinance. Thanks, Jim, for your hard work to clean that up.
Yep.
Item B, update on increasing the 2015 highway construction budget. Okay, team finance here. I know Sharon, you've worked a little bit on,
Yeah, I didn't print those emails that she sent us, because she sent them out to everybody, but I do
Yeah.
have them
Okay.
here if you want to read something from it.
and this is,
The top one is from the Bank of Lake Mills, and the bottom one is from Greenwood Bank.
okay. Did you guys see anything in the correspondence from Summit?
No.
Basically, to take up from our last month's discussion, we thought we'd seek a few other
Sure.
banks to see what the interest rate might be and how they felt about our short-term borrowing. Sarah and I, when we met to do the agenda, kind of split up the list. I took Summit and Farmers
I didn't get anything from,
Badger. So we got some
From you.
time to work on this, but we thought we should shop around a little bit. You know, we're getting differing interest rates here. In the meantime, I did a little homework with the Transportation Information Office, and my friend Ben Jordan, who has sort of shepherded me through the London Road snafu of last year. We had, he's a UW Extension professional, works for the Transportation Information Center, and in order to do these special charges to our constituents, he led me to the state statutes that allow municipalities to do that. And so you have this material here. We're quite a ways away from actually doing this, but I wanted to make sure that we were within our legal bounds to do that, as we also shop for a bank to borrow the money from. So just sharing those details with you guys. As we go along, I guess we should talk a little bit about our current expenses and where we ended up last year. I do think that we are going to be eligible this year for the county trip grant. I think it's our rotation.
Okay.
I don't know that.
Good. Great. Nice.
This morning I had a little conversation with Brian, you can hang on to this, Yubovich with the county, and I wanted to ask him a little bit about writing the bids, and I asked him to share a little information with me about the Askelin Harvey Road project and
Yep.
how they approached that and what the actual specs were. He asked me two things. If we were interested in hiring an engineer to look this over, to work on our behalf, to see if we were doing the right thing. So I thought that maybe that was an item of discussion for tonight, or if not, for next month. We have plenty of time. I also asked him if it would be possible for us to sit down again with him and talk a little bit about this. And as I write the bid specs. And so I just wanted to ask you if you have some time in the next 30 days to do that. If you'd like to get together with him, we could go down there. We could have him here. I would kind of look at it like a workshop.
Sure.
Or if you don't want to do that, I think you guys have all been pretty involved as we go along. If you don't want to do that, if you want me to talk to him and go back and forth, or I just thought that it would be prudent if we worked with him. I wasn't real anxious to spend a whole lot of money on an engineer again, because
Right,
we have a
yeah.
lot of engineering details.
And we're trying to keep the cost down as much as we can, but one thing I'd like to do is if we take a look at the spec of what we used on Cool Road and mirror that a little bit and talk with Brian a little bit, to see, because I'm assuming the county would probably bid anyway.
Yes.
Is that something you would
And
have?
and that was really a question that I had,
No,
last time we
I don't think
we were
you'd have it.
discussing this, was, you know,
Maybe you would.
You have, the town has done some major paving projects,
Yes.
repaving projects, and you have a pretty good recipe, if you will, for what you think has worked really well.
Right.
My only concern is that we know from prior engineering studies and that type of thing, that we have sort of a different animal out there on London Road. And so part of me feels that it would be really prudent to potentially have a different engineering firm look at the information that was gathered by our previous engineering firm and just maybe weigh in on whether or not they believe that the recipe that you think is
Sure.
it would be good for this is actually going to be good, or whether they would have some concerns or whatever. And I'm thinking that, yes, that's a little bit of money, but maybe that's money well spent.
It very well could be, as long as we can keep it in check, as long as
Yes.
we're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yes.
Just to take a look at the information we have, and we can take a look at Cool Road, we can take a look at what they did on Harvey Road, and also, was it Mansfield, and kind of get a feel for it. I guess, you know, I wouldn't have no objections to that, because if you went and spent, you know, $200,000 on that road, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm going
Yeah.
off the fact that that road's been there for quite a while. It's not in good shape, but it's held up for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Brian's thought was that it might help us to keep whatever contractor we would hire to the bid specs.
Yes.
So I think it would be really prudent for us to meet with him again.
Yep.
And discuss kind of where we're coming from.
Sure.
I did put together for you guys, thinking about some things that didn't get finished up last year. I thought I'd give you this list, and you guys can be, you're driving those roads, you're driving different roads, start looking at it, and then I put this like little beginning bid thing together. Nothing fancy.
Is there, Brian was helping us as sort of a third-party independent, slightly removed when we were doing the London project before, or when we were looking at it. Is there a conflict of interest with him coming in and doing that now if the county is actually potentially going to bid on this?
That is definitely a fox in the hen house. But right now, if we can use Brian's engineering expertise as a little bit of decision-making groundwork, I think that's a good thing, because the county would still have to bid it. Understanding the county's bids, because they're non-taxable government unit, generally their bids are, you know, quite competitive. I agree, and I like the free stuff.
Well, you know, here's,
Really?
we all know that.
I've never noticed that about you, Dave.
Dave would
Somebody
squeeze two nickels together. I think that he's been a good partner to us, and the county is definitely one of our partners here.
Yeah.
I think he's been a good partner to us with our dilemma on
I agree.
London Road, and I think it would be prudent for us to spend a little time.
I just wouldn't want to have a situation come up
Right.
down the road, you know, no pun intended, that all of a sudden, you know, somebody calls foul because of
The bidding
insider
process.
or
Right, yeah.
something, right?
Yep.
Well,
I hear ya. I
when
think
we
we
do
thought
go to
about it.
bid, then it will be truly a sealed bid process, and
Yeah.
I think we can avoid that.
We covered a little bit if we do, the previous meetings with Brian were done in an open meeting format. and
Yes.
We had minutes and the whole thing, so it,
Would be the same thing.
Right.
it's not behind closed doors.
So would it be?
I would love to meet with him.
Yeah, let's try to work something out. I was hoping that we could do this, he works a lot of evenings. I would try to work with him so that it would be a time where he would not have to travel back here. He could just leave work and come and meet us, or even, we go to Jefferson and meet with him.
Sure.
I think I'll try to set it up. Do you guys have anything on the horizon in the next 6 weeks that precludes you from any certain dates?
I'm out of state near the end of February for just a short period of time.
And I'm gone for a week, the first week in March, so I would try to set this up, probably after that, early March.
Sure, that's fine.
You'll be you won't be in the field yet.
Nope, not yet. Only in your dreams.
What my whole goal was to try to do some of this stuff and have this stuff sort of ready to roll, so when we do get busy and the weather does break, that we're ready to go. So I'm going to try to set up that meeting, and then I'll have Sarah communicate several dates with you guys, and we can go from there, and then we'll post it accordingly.
Just a suggestion, should we shoot for sooner than later?
If you would like to, before the end of February. You're gone when, Jim?
19th, 20th through the 22nd, I think.
So that doesn't give us very much time, a week.
But I'm just really gone over a weekend.
Oh, okay, all
Right,
right.
so
I guess you'd
Yeah.
approach Brian once to see what he has
Yeah,
open.
see what he has
I mean,
open.
we could do it this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it the 25th, the 24th, I mean, there
Are
are
you
other.
stressed?
Valentine's Day.
Oh,
Yeah,
Last week,
sweetheart.
February,
So those last 2 weeks in February are open,
no, the last 1 week, right?
last 1
Is that what
week.
you're saying?
Technically, the last week, I'm out 19th, 20th, and, 20th through the 23rd. So we could do it before 17th, 18th,
All right, I'll propose
Timeframe.
those dates to him and we'll get
24th,
moving on
25th,
this.
26th.
Kind of depends on his work schedule too.
I have a Cambridge Fire Commission meeting when, I believe it is the 24th?
Busy people.
You're talking about after work, you said, right?
Yeah, I think we'd probably do it late in the day. Be nice to have minutes, or we could tape it and you could do it later, you wouldn't need to have to be here.
My meeting with the EMS Fire Commission is the 26th of February, so I can't do the 26th.
Okay. All right,
Unless that meeting's at 6:30, so unless it's the afternoon.
Right.
Would it make sense to have Brian come here just in case we do have people from the
Sure,
town who would
yes.
want to?
certainly.
That's true, because it is an open
Yeah,
meeting.
I just
I
didn't
think-
want him to have to travel.
I know, and I understand, I'm just wondering about, open meetings law and what that means.
Okay, here is better, I think. It's much more neutral. And then he can explain to us what they got going on. We can talk about County Highway A. We can see kind of what's going to impact
Yep,
us this year.
Good idea.
I think that'll be great. Okay. Really no need for a decision there, just try to find a date. Did we spill over into the bid specs?
I think so.
I don't know, you guys continue to think about that. I don't have a document from Cool Road. Would you in your file? Or from Krogville?
It's not in the folder, huh?
Well, I haven't looked.
Oh, okay.
We can look.
I don't have it, no.
All right,
I'll look.
we can look for a
If it's not in there, I
document.
can call Jim because he would remember it.
Yeah, it may be in the file.
I think it's around 2004, 2005.
Yeah, a long time
They finished
ago.
our end right after our fire,
Yeah,
so.
okay. Well, we'll check around, see what we can find. And you know, Robin laid out a bid form for us of all the steps that we have to go through, so that's pretty complete. Once we let the bid go, then we'll have to deal with it from there. All right, new business, item number 10. Item A is funding request from the Citizens for a Better Environment related to the unlimited renewables pending air quality permit at Creekwood Farm site on Crossman Road. Anita is here to speak to us.
Today,
Um,
it's related to
all right,
correspondence.
okay. This is Anita Martin. She is one of the members of the Citizens for Better Environment for Lake Mills, and she would like to request some funding from us tonight, and I asked her to give a presentation on what she is doing. Anita?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. What we wanted to do is give an update of some of the things that have been happening, talk a little bit about our odor action line, and then ask for help from the town leaders as well as the residents. Our group is a grassroots group that was organized about this time last year. And one of the things that a resident just told us recently when he registered an odor report is that he would like for Lake Mills to be legendary for reasons other than smelling bad, which I think kind of sums up what we're focusing on right now. So over the last year, our primary focus has been activities at the Crossman Road complex. We've been working with Daybreak Foods, Creekwood Farms. We've been working with Unlimited Renewables, LLC. We've been working in conjunction with the DNR, as well as the EPA and Patricia Cicero, water specialist, on various different things related to the quality of life, health, and then economics in our community we've been talking about. This clearly, as you know, because I know this issue's been brought to the board before, I know that one of our core committee members, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, Larry Sieb, I believe he had gone out with Hope within the last 2 or 3 years to discuss some of the operations involving the manure processing at that location. And I know other people have, I think maybe, I'm not sure, but I think other people have as well over the years. It's clearly a community challenge because the facilities are located in the township, but because of the primary way that winds flow, sometimes the winds flow in and the odors come in to people that live in the township, but then very often with the prevailing southerly southwest wind, it's coming into the city. So that's one of the issues that we have. It's affecting people in the community at large, both the township and the city. And Sally Jones, one of the residents in Lake Mills in Township, recently talked to Ron Jacobson with Jacobson Appraisal, and then I spoke with him as well to get a little more information. And he had told me that when he did the township assessments in 2010, and then I guess he's planning to do updates this year as well, that the closest properties to the farm location were decreased by 15% for those that are closest and by 10% for those that were a little farther away. And then he also made market adjustments on the buildings. And so I asked him, are we talking about 5 homes or 5 properties? And he said at least 10 properties. So this is an economic issue for the township. So I do have some handout material, and some of this has already been distributed to, I think, but there's been some updates on it. And don't worry, we won't be talking about all this tonight because we'll be here all night. That's for you. One of the reasons that we put together a lot of information is because since this is such a complex issue, it's important to get all the facts correct. And by having things to refer to, that helps for us as well as for the people that we're talking with. So one of each to each of those.
Thank you.
Okay. So back in the summertime, There were some tests done of the manure stacks out at the facility in July, and then there was some water testing done at the end, towards the end of August. And because of those findings, the DNR deemed that it was necessary to get in more information. And so what has happened since that time, because the results were not showing that it was likely that they would be able to comply with their current air permit, and right now they have a very generic air permit that was issued in 2008. So what's happened since that time is that Unlimited Renewables has submitted an application for a site-specific air permit. They submitted that at the end of December, and now recently at the end of January, the air engineer at the DNR that's reviewing the application has asked for additional documentation. The significance of this new permit, and this is something that I think is important, is that if the new permit is approved, it has more checks and balances in it. It requires more documentation, more testing, more, I guess you would say, on-site or on-hands oversight by the DNR. Right now, the permit that they have is kind of generic, and it allows them to have a certain level of emissions for the year. But this other permit would be more specific on different types of emissions that go into the air, because the chemicals, the odors that we smell are related to chemicals, some of which have health hazards to them. So, at the recommendation of Christine Lillick, who is with the DNR, and for about a year and a half, she was the person that we were mainly dealing with. We've had a lot of changes with who has been our primary point of contact at the DNR, but Christine Lillick has been working closely with us, and she recommended that we have an independent engineer review the materials, the application, the permit when it's drafted, to make recommendations. The way that the permit process works is that the DNR has an air engineer that reviews the permit. But, I want to say it diplomatically, and I don't really know how to say it, but there's costs associated with getting these permits. And so I don't know how often the permits are refused. If it has happened, it's been a handful of times over the last few years. So it behooves us to have someone from the outside with expertise in air management to look at the permit, see where there are issues, like for instance, it doesn't look as if a certain chemical will be able to be kept within the limits, to look at various different things as an outsider and make recommendations. Then our hope is, and it already has happened to some extent, then those recommendations will be written into the draft air permit. Because if you remember a while back, I know some people had gone to the water permit hearing that was held in December of 2012. This is a separate process because it's an air permit. But if you remember, there was a permit and there was an opportunity to have public input. Well, this way, we hopefully will have opportunity to have the permit parameters put in early on. The application that they've submitted is about 160 pages. It's quite extensive. And if you remember looking at the application for the water, if anybody looked at it and commented, it was very technical. It was full of a lot of jargon. I don't think the average person could figure out what didn't look right and what looked correct. It's been very helpful, and we've actually we looked at a couple possibilities as far as people to take on the engineering consultation. And we also have been working with an organization called Midwest Environmental Advocates. And they have given us a couple names of people to consider, people they've worked with before. So we chose Steve Klafka, who has had his own business for close to 25 years in Madison. It's called Wingra Engineering. He has an air management specialty, and back in the 80s, he did work for the DNR for a couple of years. So he knows kind of some of the things that are involved with these air permits, and he has experience in like 14 different states, and at the very back of that one packet is his resume, two-sided. He's worked with clients in a number of different regions in the United States. Midwest looks sort of like Southeast, Southwest, Washington State. He has a pretty strong background, and he comes well recommended. And before we chose him, we also looked to see some samples of his work on the internet, and it seemed like it was, well, it seemed like it was detailed and what we were looking at. So far he's reviewed the application, he's made 5 pages of recommendations, and we've shared that with the DNR, and then the DNR has asked for more information and has deemed the current application that they have in process as incomplete. So now they're asked to provide additional documentation. We may then, from what I understand, this process could go back and forth a while. DNR could say, okay, we want additional. So we may be wanting to have Steve review things intermittently. And then when the permit is drafted, assuming that it will be, which we don't know for sure, but there'll be a draft permit, and that's where the time is available for the public to make comment. We were told that there would automatically be a public hearing, and now we're told that there might not automatically be a public hearing, so we may have to request one. But there's always at least a 30-day period from the point at which the draft is completed and posted for the public to make comments. So we would really like to get as much input into the permit and make it as strong as possible, because once the hearing is held, the hearing is really sort of informational. If you remember last time, if anybody made comments, a lot of the comments that we got back were, this is not in the scope of the permit. So by having him review that, we can have things that are within the scope of the permit. And then having the permit be strong with checks and balances, we can work closely with the DNR to make sure that then they are checking things as they're supposed to be and keeping on schedule. The schedules of them checking on things have not been as good. And this will be a little way for us to track a little bit better. So that's a little information on why we're looking for the engineer. Like I said, we've actually had him in place. And he gave us an estimate because he works on an hourly basis, and it's difficult to assess at this point exactly how many hours he'll be spending, because how many times back and forth will we go, and etc. But he gave us an estimate of between $500 and $700. So what we are asking for, recognizing and realizing that there may not be an opportunity for the township to support, we're asking the town, and we've also asked the city council, for between $200 to $300 to put towards the fees, and then we would cover the rest of it. If that's not possible, that we understand that. If any citizens would like to put in towards it, that's great too, because we are not a 501c3. We're not organized in that way. We're a very a grassroots kind of a, in the making type of organization, and we haven't really been doing fundraising. We've been busy with these other activities. So since it is something that affects everyone, I think almost everyone can say that at some point they have smelled odors related to the manure processing, particular in that location. We would like for people to, if not economically support, the other thing that's very helpful and we've been very encouraged by is for people to call the odor action line, and there is a card in your packet. We've been asked by the DNR to provide objective data on odors. And what we've been doing is having people phone in or email in when they smell an odor to report it, and to provide the information, basically the date, the time, the location that they're at. Let's say the 300 block of South Main, or the corner of Main Street and Pinnacle, or if you want to say I'm standing in front of 1021, walking by with my dog and I'm smelling it, whatever. the odor rating, 1 being mild, 5 being severe, and then the odor type, if you know that it smells like chicken feces, whatever. And to give us this information, preferably soon, but within a day. This is helpful for us, and we are asking everyone to do this. And in the packets there's an example of the order summary we made for the month of January, so you can kind of see the format that it takes. We then, when we get odor reports, we then look into what the direction of the wind is and all that type of thing, and we are very definitely seeing, like we had one person mention today, that, you know, with the way that the wind was flowing, going, it was definitely. And when the wind goes south-southwest, it pretty much hits our house. And the manure processing has basically been going on now. I don't know about right now, but for a while here, they've been processing manure 18 hours a day from Monday through Thursday, and then from about 9 until 3 or they're in on Fridays. So it's a pretty long period of time. And when the winds and when there's air inversion with the cold and stuff, the odors, I think, are staying closer to the ground, so they're not dissipating, and we're getting more odors. The other thing that I did want to mention that I would like, and our group has talked about too, and I know it's not something we want to address right now, but I'm just going to plant the seed. There's been talk before about maybe having a county-wide ordinance to address this. And certainly having a township ordinance is, since it's affecting more than just the town, it's affecting the citizens of the city, and then depending, it can extend into Cambridge and Oakland. We're asking for you to think about the possibility sometime within the next few months to look at perhaps getting together the city officials, county officials, et cetera, to talk about whether a county ordinance addressing odors would be a way to go. And I have an example of what they do in Brown County, bless you, the Green Bay area. They have an ordinance, and I have an example of it for you. I know this wouldn't be easy, and I know it's complicated, but one of the reasons we would like for it to be at least considered is that going forward, there may be other issues involving odors, and it's another way to address it. So something to just think about. I talked with a gentleman who's worked with this and got a little more information. And we have not presented this part of any of this to the city council yet. But eventually we were invited to come speak, which hopefully will be soon. So in the packet of information, one of the things that I do want to point out is that you can follow the progress of the permit process online. And it's, if you look at the first handout that's double-sided, under number 9, they will be posting things. So far, they haven't posted information from 2014 on the website, though we've asked numerous times. So that is why that is included in your packets. That's information that I think residents should know. And then there's some very good information about how to be heard in a DNR hearing that's available on the website for the Midwest Advocates website, so I included that information as well. I don't know if I kind of covered everything, or if anyone has any more questions on what's happening, or on the engineering analysis, or...
Well, I guess I'll, first of all, reference this letter that we have from Sally Jones. Would you like me to read it, Anita?
Sure, because I think we probably want to have it on the record.
We would normally cover this in correspondence, but we will read it now as we're talking about it. It's addressed to Sarah and board members. A request that the board listen to the people in the community concerning the smells in the area. During the summer, it's very unpleasant to be outside. I can't even go to the lake to get away from it. The only option is to go out of town. I would rather spend my money in town, and I hate to be chased out of my own house. This winter has not been much better. Lately it's been awful. You can't hold your breath that long going down County A and County Highway S. I realize it's part of a farming community, but not like this. This is not, has got to be remedied. I talked to Ron Jacobson with assessments. When they were done, I complained about the smell. Jacobson Appraisal said the homes within a certain radius have had their assessments reduced. We need the whole area reduced! Exclamation mark. I know the businesses need to work with neighbors and communities, but this seems one-sided. Please do something. Respectfully, Sally Jones. Sally's a summertime resident on Elm Point. Just so we have that in the record. My question to you would be this, Anita. You guys have worked with this consultant, is it Wingra Engineering? Mm-hmm. What would the specific contract that you have be, and what deliverables would you be expecting? I guess I
Okay.
don't really know.
Well, you know, he is basing his fees on an hourly rate. And so we first had him review the application. Because otherwise, with the way that this process works, it can be delayed or it can go kind of quickly. So if you don't have input too early enough in the permitting process, there isn't that much opportunity later on unless you have a contested or I think that's what it's called. It's a contested hearing, and that's a legal process that's very expensive that I don't think any of us can afford. So, we, you know, at this point, we would most likely be having him review the final draft permit, and I don't know how long that will take. And then if we have questions for him intermittently. So it's loose, it's not really a written contract, it's a loose arrangement based on hourly. But I think, you know, his fees are reasonable, his professional fees are reasonable. So, I mean, he already has given us a 5-page analysis of some of the concerns he has about the application, and we've shared that with the DNR, like I said. And some of those things that look like they are being asked for additional information. And then that's other material that if they don't incorporate it into the draft, that we can at least ask for. So, you know, it's, I don't know if that's...
It's basically the technical support you need to have the permit drafted.
Yeah. I mean, like for instance, they're asking about rates because the way that emissions work, it depends upon the rate of emissions and, you know, how many tons of various things they think would be emitted over a period of time. And then he has also looked at equipment that they have and what the normal abilities and insufficiencies of various pieces of equipment are, and has been recommending that they need to look at, like for instance, they've been talking for quite some time, including with the EPA, about getting a biofilter. And so he's talking about, you know, how a biofilter can impact volatile organic compounds and particulate matter. And these things are all important for health. They also are important because the particulate matter can go into the lake. And, you know, we're not talking about the water issues right now, but there's a possibility because of contaminated water that needed to be pumped out of the site in September that they may be asked by DNR to apply for a new water permit. So then we have to go through this whole thing too. So, you know, and then we would be asking for, not from Steve because his area of expertise is air, but we have names of another. So we could be incurring additional expenses as a group. And so we're just hoping that a little bit of support could be available. So what else has been, you know, to give you some other examples. And then there's also the issue, which I don't know how this will impact anything, but according to what his analysis is the initial air permit that was given, the generic registration operating permit, the ROP, was not the correct permit that the DNR should have issued. So that's a whole nother, I don't even know what we would do with that, but that's important information for us to know. And had we not had someone with the technical expertise, I mean, I kind of looked at the parameters and wasn't sure, but I don't have the technical expertise. So they're looking at, what are some other things, for example? The limitations of the equipment, more testing, that type of thing. So they specifically, there's an analysis of what's called the latest available control technique and operating practices demonstrating best current technology, or LACT, and that has to do with the emissions. So I guess I'm not sure I'm answering the question. It's technical expertise along the way on various documents and various aspects of the permit. The permit really, this is an opportunity for us to get a good strong permit. And I think it's really important that we all stay engaged in that process, because once the permit's in process, once the permit is approved, if it is, it's harder to make changes. And I'm not sure if we're talking about a 5-year permit on this or a 1.5-year permit. Like with the water permit, it's typically a 5-year permit. And that's a pretty long time. And so...
You guys have any other questions you want to ask?
The engineer that does he have the abilities to take a look at the test analysis and then make his recommendations of whether it's, because the DNR's going to have their guidelines, the EPA has their guidelines. Can he interpret that? Because
yes, he does.
The laboratory parts, it's like, really? Oh.
Yeah, no, he does. He's got, he has that expertise. And the other part of this process too is that, and we've been in contact with the EPA, but once the permit is drafted, the EPA can also have input on the permit, which seems like you would think they'd be working together on this.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But, so we've been in contact with them as well.
All of the suggestions that was made by the DNR, have they made those improvements?
No. The DNR arranged for Laverne Georgeson, I'm probably massacring his name, and another individual to come out. They're experts with composting and dust control. They came out there last summer and worked on a one-to-one with the management staff at Unlimited Renewables. And from what I understand, and I could be wrong, but the last I had heard, they had offered to come out there again to continue discussions and assist, and they did not schedule that. Okay, the DNR has made a number of recommendations that they have not implemented. Yes, that's very much the case. And partly, I think, because some of it is a capital expenditure, and but it is the cost of doing business, and we want them to be good neighbors, and they need to make investments. So no, they have not implemented everything. There's been numerous visits by DNR, there's been numerous visits by EPA. They indicated they were going to make some changes. They've stated that there's some equipment on back order that should help with dust control. I don't know what to really say. DNR has offered them a lot of assistance.
Sorry, because I guess the thing. What if they've already had those mandates and recommendations? If none of those things have been upgraded, you're just kind of spinning your wheels in the mud, so to speak. The biofilter, I guess I know what a couple of them are, and that is a major capital expense. Some of those things can get up to $1 million. So. Which would be great, SNR, they have a biofilter in, and there still is some odor that comes off there, but not like what's present now and then here.
Well, they have said that they're getting dust hopper equipment, and that's supposed to substantially reduce odors. I don't know. And then they were going to do some other duct work and some other things in conjunction with the installation of that equipment. Yeah.
Has anybody given you any kind of indication as to we are at a level X, and with this equipment and or with a proper permit and proper oversight and that type of thing, management, the odor will be at Y?
No. No. You know,
And is that because that information is just not available, or what is? Because I think the end goal really is the reduction of the smell.
yes.
The dust and some of the others are arguably concerns, but probably, I will say, because they can't be carried as far as easily, they are less of a concern, or somewhat less of a concern, a different kind of concern, that type of thing. Obviously, the water permit, completely different altogether. But I know that regulation of odors is very, very challenging, and there's a lot going on. I know that large dairy operations have some issues with this, and I'm just trying to get a sense of are these engineers, are these different companies that you've spoken of, are they giving any kind of indication that, oh, you know, for this type of an operation, no, this is very high, and they should be down in this other range?
It's a really good question, and you know, one of the things, if you remember from the hearing back in 2012 when DNR had the water hearing, they were saying DNR does not regulate odors. Do you remember that statement?
Right.
Yeah. And and that while that is true, they regulate some chemicals which have to do with odors. So, you know, part of the problem with this is that odors are somewhat subjective. And there is odor, there's nasal ranger equipment to measure and all this type of thing. There's costs associated with that, and they're not inexpensive. But what the engineers can say is that they can look statistically at some of the equipment and the propensity to reduce odors. And so that's one of the things that's in the analysis, you know, that a certain percentage of the odors should be controlled by this particular piece of equipment. With a large-scale operation such as that, odors will not be eliminated. But as you mentioned, there are other operations that have different pieces of equipment and different processes in place that do not have the magnitude of the odors. I mean, you know, there are solutions and ways to address many of these things. They need to be implemented. Whether the permit will take care of that, I don't know. You know, it's complicated. That's one of the biggest things, is this is so complicated. You know, just even the different DNR people that handle various aspects of this, and it's not easy. But I do feel that there will be improvements if the right equipment is used and if the right permit is in place. Will it be an end-all, be-all? Maybe not. You know, in theory, processing manure and drying it prevents, you know, manure from having to be spread, or at least a certain portion of it, you know, isn't. And none of the manure is spread from there. It's sold to other facilities in Illinois and things like that, the compost manure. But if the process that is used is, you know, putting off chemicals, that's a problem.
I guess, first of all, just to correct you a little bit, and it's true the majority of it is shipped out of the area, but essentially it all gets spread because it is a soil amendment for plant growth, whether it's a garden or a flower bed or a production field. So I mean it has to go someplace. It just doesn't disappear. It might disappear from Lake Mills. The other thing is the reason I was asking about if some of the provisions that they've already been in the citations, or not the citations, but the violations that they've already occurred. If those things are not addressed and improved, and to get the equipment that needs to be done or installed, there is no improvement. Same input, same output. So now if the permit is more restrict, and in order to get the permit issued, and if they have to do those things, I mean, maybe that gives it the teeth to get it done. I don't know. Right now, I don't know if there's been a lot of positive results in, some of the things. The egg waste ponds out there with the aeration they put in, that pretty much most of the time has cured that issue. So now it's just down to that condensation stack, I think, is what the biggest problem is. And one of the things that I always find is kind of interesting is I agree with you with the particulate, because that's one thing that's always kind of concerned me about it, because odor travels on particles.
Right.
And what I find is really interesting is when you look at a fresh snow cover and you go and watch the way the wind's blowing, I would expect to see particulates out there. And unless the particulates are carried further than I'm looking, I don't find the evidence. I'm not saying it's not there, it's just that I find it kind of interesting that you don't see it.
Well, the particulate matter is very small, and some of it is, and it can travel very, very far, like miles and miles and miles. So that is of concern. We do know from the tracking we've done, the odors are going at least 3.1 miles. And according to some of the information, and I just haven't been able to find a good resource, a lot of the things that are available do have a lot of support behind them as far as studies, but several places say that odors from CAFOs, which is the concentrated animal feeding operation,
Right.
the large-scale farming, can
Yeah.
go 6 miles. And that's 6 miles how the crow flies. So that's even further. So those orders are they're going far. And I do want to clarify, because right now they are, as far as I know, they're not in violation of their air permit. And I asked for clarification on this so that I wasn't misstating, but the air permit that they have says they're allowed to emit a certain amount of things per year. But the thing is, that's kind of, and the reason they're asking for them to, consider a different permit is because it depends if you're operating 18 hours a day,
And take the weekend off.
Yeah, exactly.
Divide by 7 days and
So
24 hours a day.
it's pretty
so sure.
nonspecific. So right now, as far as that goes, I do want to clarify that they have not been fined for operating outside of their air permit. Now, the water issue, they're looking at whether they're going to be, fined under the manure spill law. There's a manure spill law, and they have not been fined, for that, Though the fines, they have not incurred fines with regards to those things right now. So I do want to clarify that. But yeah, we're frustrated. That's why I think if we have a community effort and we look at things and, maybe we look at other things down the road, I don't know, but the permits are the first step. The permits are the first step in getting a better situation. They clearly are.
Right.
And then from there we look at other things as needed. So I hope, that I answered a few of those things.
Do you know if Creekwood Farms Daybreak Foods is a CAFO?
Right.
But now limited renewable resources, that is industrial. That's not particularly a CAFO.
This has come up before, and the permitting is a a little confusing because, you know, Daybreak Foods, Creekwood Farms has their own water permit
Correct.
separate from, you know,
Yep.
they don't currently have, Daybreak Foods doesn't currently have an air permit, but the DNR has thought about whether that should be something that's implemented, okay? And, you know, you are right in saying that it's an industrial process in some respects. I mean, they use things that have material safety data sheets, the MSDS sheets, you know, and all that type of thing. So that's another issue that has been addressed with the DNR, and it's complicated. I guess because they consider the companies to be working in conjunction because it's the manure being, you know, produced.
Oh, correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
No, I didn't mean to pick them apart, but I was just kind of curious because I guess my thought is you have the Right to Farm Act.
right,
But then when it's not a CAFO, it becomes an
An
industry, then the rules should be different. And I guess the other comment is, you know, you have the Right to Farm Act, but at the same time, nobody has the right to be able to wreck your way of life. I mean, it's going to be there, you know, because that's just a matter of fact. And I don't know how you guys feel, but the town board, speaking of myself, does have a responsibility to the people of the town of Lake Mills and the surrounding area. So I think to show that responsibility, we do have to show some sort of a support. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but because we're kind of all in this together, and it's a difficult road for me to walk on because obviously I'm a farmer. So, and there's activities, there's normal activities that go on out there, and the rules are not all the same for all operations. So,
Right.
and that's the thing that gets a little bit disturbing, where one farm can get away with a lot of things and another one can't.
well, the rules are complex, and, you know, there's, the DNR and the EPA are enforcing basically the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act, and
Right.
there are many people that think that both of those acts need to be stricter and have more teeth to them. So, you know, part of the issues with regards to making sure things are done correctly over there is there has to be proof that they're violating the law, you know. So it does become complicated.
You know,
I agree with Dave. As a board, we need to listen to the people of our community and be able to respond to what is going on. Where I have a little bit of difficulty is, correct me if I'm wrong, the town has no regulatory authority over this.
Right.
We did not issue any permits for the initial operations, their expansion, that type of thing. That has all been done through the county or through the DNR. So, you know, state and county and that type of thing. And so, you know, if we had some kind of, I'll say or authority in this, I think I would feel differently. But it, you know, in the position that we're in, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we can do, really. And this has been sort of the dilemma all along,
Right.
as we've been discussing this, and we have been out to Creekwood to review their operation and that type of thing. So, yeah, I don't know. It's
Well, I think that we have had a number of complaints. I think that's been pretty well documented. And like these guys said, we have been out there and looked at it. I was out there and did a ride around. It's very distressing to me to see what's going on and then to see the continued violations, especially now when we're talking about water and pumping and disposing of water. It's upsetting to me. It's more upsetting to me to have complaints from local residents because we are kind of charged with public health and well-being. It is also upsetting to me that they don't seem to be coming along as quickly as I would like them to be. It's upsetting to me too that we are beginning to see a decrease in our property values because of it. I said to Anita earlier when she asked to be placed on the agenda, I said I wasn't exactly sure if asking for funding from the town proper was the best route to go. But being a grassroots organization, I think that you could use some help. I wonder if there is a way for you to raise the money privately without expending public monies. I don't know exactly where we would take this from our budget. It's certainly not a budgeted item. But I understand the fact that if we could write the permit clearly and concisely to enforce these things that we hold dear, our quality of life and our health, that it would be very helpful to you and to others in our community and to us as a whole fiscally to have this help. So I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. I left here last meeting in January and drove home the back way as I usually do as the manure steam is spewing out. Yesterday I was at my property on County Highway S and I was a little bit aghast at the way things smell. I don't have to deal with it on an everyday basis. Some evenings when I come home I can smell it. I should be reporting these odors a little more frequently so that you would understand where we're smelling these things. I applaud your efforts, but I'm not exactly sure what the pleasure of this board should be when it comes to supporting the funding. You heard the discussion we had earlier about engineers. We've dealt with a few of them. It's very difficult to understand what they're going to provide unless you have a contract and you know what the deliverables are going to be. But I don't want you to get the idea that we don't support whatever you are doing. I applaud your efforts as a grassroots group. And I know that you have members within the town and within the city. I don't know what to tell you from there.
I'd like to just add that I think you have done a very, very good job presenting in as neutral and as fair a way as you can. You obviously are on one side of the fence, but I think you have done a very, very good job of trying to be fair, honest to both sides in what you've presented, and I think you should be very proud of that fact.
So,
Some you want to talk about at the annual meeting?
yes, I think that might be good. We always have an annual meeting in April. I know you're in the process. I said to Anita that I would put my money where my mouth is. I would be very interested in helping you gather this minimal amount of funds for you to do this. At this time, I really don't think that the town has a role here. But if we put this on our annual meeting agenda, along with some of the other fiscal requests that we're going to be making of the citizens of the town, I think that would be a good time for you to present this again and let the general public know. I encouraged her to come tonight so that she could get the word out.
Absolutely.
I wonder where we are in that lease. If I recall the beginning of this discussion, that there is a lease for unlimited renewables with Creekwood.
Right.
And if they could take back that lease, that would,
I do know that it was a 10-year lease, and it is getting towards the end. Lauren Ash did tell me when it expired, but right offhand, I do
Can't
not
remember.
remember. It's like a year or two. It's getting short to getting to the end.
We're not sure if we have the most current copy, but it looks like it would be expiring at the end of December of 2016, if we have the current copy.
Right.
And
And
then
that
if
sounds
it-
pretty
yeah,
close.
and then if they renew it, it goes for another 2 years. But that has not been confirmed by the Creekwood Daybreak Foods folks, but I think that that is correct. So
do you have any idea, Anita, what the timeline is with this permit creation?
You know, that's a really good question, because it's so confusing. But I did ask someone how long normally it would take for a company to come back with the information that's been requested, and the person that has worked with the permitting process said it's not uncommon to take about 2 to 3 weeks. That was the 29th. They haven't produced it yet. It can go it can go pretty quickly, but if they keep requesting, it can be drawn out. But what I do know is that once they've deemed they've created the draft permit, they need to, they have 145 days.
Sure, I was going to say there's a
Yeah,
timeline there
yeah.
once
So,
it's
you know,
drafted.
And so if there's a contested or if there's a hearing or whatever. So it may be fairly quickly, it may be further out. And that's one of the uncertainties we've been working with, and one of the reasons we've been trying to hasten this, because we don't want to be stuck, you know, all of a sudden scrambling around, you know, because it seemed like last time, maybe I was wrong, that the water permit stuff happened really fast, and it was like, you know, we were sort of taken off guard. We really didn't have a chance to review it and really, you know, figure it out this way at least. But it could be within the next, you know, month or two. You know, hopefully we'll have the public hearing and that type of thing. And when we make comments in the public realm, we want to address specific things about the permit. We can mention our quality of life, but it's better to,
Back to science.
yeah.
Right, right.
I guess my next thought would be is if their lease, you know, does expire and it does not get renewed, in Jefferson County, a conditional use permit used to stay with the property. Now that ordinance has been changed and that conditional use permit stays with the
business.
person. Now, and if that person sells that business, then they have to reapply for the permit. So my question would be is, if that lease is terminated or expires, then does the permitting process have to start all over again?
I asked, because there was a little question as to whether the permit stays with the facility if another, you know, if a
Entity.
company. And from what I was told from the water and the air side, basically it's a location specific.
Okay.
So like if they left and they wanted to take it to, you know, a different location, they can't.
Can't do
And
it.
then they need to, it sounds like maybe, I'm not sure that I'm understanding it, but it sounds like they would do perhaps an abbreviated, you know, request since it's in place. But I think we also would have an opportunity to push that a little bit, given the history of problems, to make sure that if somebody else
Right.
comes in, that
Yep.
they're, you know.
Because you don't want to have to reinvent it.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, and but we don't know, you know, but what will happen and what the status of that manure contract is. But we know that we have a little while left, and, you know,
It's just a thought.
yeah.
All right. Well, I think we will defer any decision. I would certainly like to hear more from our constituency. I pretty much know how quite a few people feel. But as we go along, it would be good, and it would be also good if you, Sarah, could post that odor reporting information on our website with your contact information.
And then we just, you know, want to reiterate that perhaps we could consider a county-wide ordinance. I know it wouldn't be easy, but I think that might be something to consider for the future.
It's nice that you have given us a draft of the Brown County ordinance. It will be
Yeah.
interesting for us as town board members to look at that, discuss that with the county. We look at
Yeah.
them as our partner, and
It can be brought up at our unit meeting.
it would be very interesting to have that discussion. So thank you for your homework on that, Anita,
Time
and best wishes. So Sarah, if you would post that contact information, then we can begin to track that as a township too. Thank you, Anita. Item B, board expense sheet approval. Anybody got any expenses?
Nope.
I just wanted to share this with you guys. I decided that I probably would be reelected. And then I probably would like to go to Kalahari to the Towns Association meeting in October. And when I booked my room, they asked me to pay for it right away. So, I just wanted to bring that up. And then I wanted to ask you, Dave, if you had any further thoughts about going to that, district meeting.
You know, I guess my
can let
thought
me know.
was.
We're gonna
yeah,
put you on the
well,
spot.
No, that's fine. I guess what I was thinking is it does not contain the board of review
Doesn't have the Board of Review
certification.
training. Do we,
It's
no?
not a bad meeting to go to, but it's gonna be, you know, a lot of legislative stuff,
I
so.
was kinda counting on the Board of Review
Yeah,
training.
so I'm thinking in the board of review training, we'll just have to watch for when the WIS line comes up, because,
Do you,
we're,
The first time I did it online.
yeah.
yep, and that's
yeah,
what we
me
did.
too.
And,
Yeah,
no big deal.
That's the WIS
honestly,
line, and it goes pretty fast.
Last year, when I was at the district meeting and they had the Board of Review training, that was very nice. I mean,
It is,
was-
because
it was
all
great.
presented.
Right, and then there were a lot of great questions that were, asked at that and everything
I
like
just
that.
wonder if they're going to a total online Board of Review training. And I guess that's a question I can type to the Towns Association and ask them. I just wanted to kind of get a handle on
Yeah,
that, because
so-
May will be here before you know it.
Yep, I guess that's my thought, if not to go.
All right. Correspondence, item number 11.
I'm wondering, are you Sean? Yes. He contacted me about, road signs on Brockley Road. Is that a correspondent?
I guess we'll treat you as correspondence, Sean.
Okay,
Tell us who you are and what your issue
He
is.
came in right after public comment was done.
Oh, I'm
so-
sorry.
That's
I
all
thought it was at
right.
the end.
You just missed us. We can talk about it at this time.
Yeah, I'm Sean Austin. I live on Rock Lake Road. It's right after the freeway on the hill. It's N 7081 Rock Lake Road. And I own the house on the hill, and I also own the house down by the road. And on that road, going to the north from the freeway, there's a sharp corner that, I don't know what the speed limit is. I don't know if it's 45.
45.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm having with my tenants that rent the house, and even me coming out of my driveway, being right next to the freeway, I have a hard time getting across the road and turn by the time those cars come around that corner at 45, because my driveways are so close to that corner. So I would like to see either, and I've got 3 grandchildren that just started school, either a school bus stop sign ahead
Oh, okay.
or a hidden driveway sign. So when
Okay.
people come around that corner, they know that there's, you know,
Tell me again your address, Sean.
N 7081 Rock Lake Road, and the other house is 7103.
Okay, we can
There
take a
hasn't
look
been
at it.
anybody living in that house for a few years, so maybe people in the neighborhood don't know that there's people living there now.
And you're more concerned about traffic that is coming from the
From the-
north?
From the north going south.
Okay, so that would be the north.
The other way you could see, once you get underneath the freeway, it's pretty straight until you hit that corner
Hmm.
across from Voight's there.
Okay, we'll take a look at it.
Yep.
You know, that's just a placement of a sign,
Yeah, and,
not a big deal.
yeah, because like I said, my grandkids are crossing the road now to get on the school bus, and yesterday, matter of fact, I looked, and there was nobody coming, I no more than got out on the road, and that car came around, 45 miles an hour, but it ain't that, it fits 100 feet from the end of that corner to my driveway. It's,
Okay.
Because the issue is the unposted township road is automatically 55 miles an hour. We have the right to be able to lower our speed limits by 10 miles an hour, and we did that, so all of our town roads are 45 miles an hour.
Okay.
So in order to lower that anymore, we would have to do a traffic study on there. And then if that traffic study then would warrant us to lower it any lower, then we'd have to follow that recommendation from the DOT.
Yeah, I guess I'm not so much the speed limit.
Yeah, so I just kind of let you know where
Yeah,
we'd be
okay.
at.
Yeah,
So,
because I think when you get on the other side of the freeway, it's 35, right, and that, all the way to Highway B.
you know, it might be something we should look at.
No, it's
that.
40, it's 45 all the
Highway B?
way. So as soon as you come onto Rock Lake Road off of Highway B,
Okay.
it jumps to 45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
but
Okay,
that's
we'll
where
take a
I'm
look at it.
Yeah,
Not beyond us to put up a sign.
yeah.
We've been doing it
we
pretty
can- We can
regular.
do that, so sure.
Like I said, and they plan on being there, and like I said, my kids, grandkids
Sure.
and that stuff. And
Okay,
but-
all right, we'll take a look at it. Thank you
All
for
right,
your
thanks so much
comments.
for your time.
You bet.
Helps us out, we're not using your driveway, that helps, thank you.
Yep.
Speaking of signs, I also had a phone call from someone who said that a sign had been picked off by the snowplow, presumably on North Shore Road. I drove out there this afternoon to look, and sure enough, it's propped up, but the post was.
What is it,
split
what
in
kind of a
half.
sign?
It is a curve sign with a 20-mile-per-hour.
And where is it?
That sucker
Got
got
any-
it
got an
last year
address?
too.
It is
You know the one, right?
North of 75.
That, not to be, it's not funny,
North
but
Shore Road.
it's just,
That's very good.
Target fixation.
Thank you
must
very
be a good
much.
spot.
So is that
no?
something that we can charge
sign,
Forest
take it out.
for?
I'd like to say yes, but
We'll think about that. Lake Mills Optimist Club thanks us for the use of the hall for their Adopt a Family program. We have a couple of utility companies who are interested in our road construction plans when we make them. Rock River Reflections has arrived, and the 2014 Annual Boating Program Report is now available on the DNR webpage for anyone who's interested in that.
Great. I also received this, and I thought we could talk about it after the meeting. This is the utility, We Energy's asking us for any road restrictions we have. And I thought, well, that's a pretty big subject. Looking at weight limits, is that what they're looking at?
yeah, I'm assuming it's just our spring postings. But you can pretty much take that right off the sign.
Would you like me
Okay.
to fill that out?
Well, I thought we'd look at it. All right. Any other correspondence?
No.
Anything else to come before the board? Meeting scheduled. March 3rd, the Planning Commission. The Joint Rock Lake Committee meeting has been canceled for March 3rd, and our next board meeting is March 10th, Tuesday at 8 p.m. A motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side.